No one thought she could walk, let alone run, let alone fly. It was supposed to be just another quiet Tuesday in Oak Ridge, Georgia, the kind of town where wind chimes ring louder than sirens, and the biggest excitement is a fresh pie at the diner. But at 3:42 p.m., time forgot to move slowly. A stroller, light blue, worn handles, rolled free from a distracted mother's grip. It picked up speed fast down the gentle hill in front of Maple Street Market. The baby inside kicked its feet, giggling. Everyone else froze. A teenager on his phone, a man loading groceries, the mother screaming, "Too late." And then, a yellow. Flash Clara Jennings, age 78. Height 5'2". Occupation officially retired, unofficially invisible. The kind of woman who wore cardigans even in June, who waved at squirrels, who used the word darlin' so often it became punctuation. No one had ever seen her do more than shuffle. But today, Clara ran, not stumbled, not lurched, ran. Form perfect, shoulders low, arms slicing air. Her feet struck pavement with a rhythm that didn't ask permission. People stared. One boy dropped his soda. A man whispered, "Is that?" She caught the stroller just feet before it reached the curb, just before traffic, just before a scream would have become a headline. She threw herself forward, not recklessly, but like someone who knew how to land. One arm cradled the child. Her back hit the asphalt, her elbow bled, but the baby was safe. She sat up, wincing, looked at the stunned crowd and said, breathless but smiling, "Well, that was root of gravity." The mother sobbed. A man clapped. A teen started recording. That video would travel around the globe in under 24 hours, but Clara didn't know that yet. As sirens approached, as people leaned in to ask if she was okay, she was already far away, mentally, in a different time, a different track. Somewhere deep in her bones, something had remembered, because once, long ago, Clara Jennings didn't just run to save children. She ran to save herself. But when she was 22, the world made her stop, and now, at 78, her legs had decided enough silence, it's time to run again. Long before she was a cardigan-wearing blur in a small-town street, Clara Jennings had another name, the Georgia Gazelle. She earned it barefoot, running laps around rusted trailers and broken fences in the sun-burnt outskirts of Savannah. Her father worked the mines. Her mother hemmed dresses for rich women who never smiled. But Clara, she ran. At 12, she outran every boy in her school. At 15, she beat the local college team's top sprinter in a county fair exhibition. The story made page 7 of the Savannah Chronicle. Dirt track girl leaves dust on college boys. She trained with whatever she could find, weighted her ankles with bricks, raced the school bus to the main road, stretched in her church shoes, and she never, not once, lost a race. In 1972, at 22, Clara qualified for the U.S. Olympic team, not because anyone sponsored her, because she refused not to. The night she boarded the plane to Munich, her mama whispered, "Bring home something that don't rust." Clara nodded, pressed her calloused palm over her heart, and flew. And then came the silence. The moment they told her she was pregnant, everything changed. She didn't even cry. Not right away. She stared at the test, then at the 3 men in gray suits pretending not to see the look in her eyes, and then at her coach, Barrett, who couldn't even meet her gaze. "Unwed and pregnant," one of the men said. "We can't afford distractions." That word again, distraction. Like her child was noise, no press release, no medal ceremony, no formal ban. They just sent her home, like luggage. She returned to Georgia with nothing but a cracked duffel and a body full of thunder with nowhere to go. Her son, Elijah, was born in winter. She named him for the prophet who rose in fire, who never died, only disappeared into the sky. She didn't tell him about the Olympics, or the disgrace, or the way she screamed into her pillow the night the final aired, and someone else stood where she was supposed to. She raised him with stories about persistence, about kindness, about waiting for the right time to be heard, but never about running. She buried that part of herself the way old sprinters bury tape on finish lines, deep final, and with a sigh. She taught math and gym for 32 years, coached a few local teams, but never stepped on the track herself. Never let her body remember. On weekends, she sat by the river and watched the currents race. On Sundays, she stood during hymns but never moved when the Spirit took others dancing. Elijah grew up and left, first to Morehouse, then law school, then D.C. Clara retired quietly, moved to Oak Ridge, took a room at Pine Creek Retirement Village, planted ferns, baked, walked the halls like a ghost with warm hands. The nurses liked her. She's sweet, they'd say, doesn't need much. But they never noticed the way her fingers twitched during televised track meets, how she tapped the beat of every race against her thigh, how her legs ached at night, not from age, but memory. She had learned to live, with silence, to make peace with forgetting, until that Tuesday, until the wheels turned, until her feet heard a sound the rest of her had long forgotten, and for the first time in 56 years, Clara Jennings didn't ask permission. She just ran. The video was 38 seconds long, shaky, vertical, shot on a teenager's phone while he stood outside Maple Street Market, holding a soda and disbelief. It started with a scream, then a blur of yellow, then an old woman, not stumbling, running. The caption read, "Grandma just saved a baby like she was in the freaking Olympics." Within an hour, the video had 12,000 views. By sundown, it had 1.2 million. By morning, everyone had seen it. The national news got to it first. Elderly hero in Georgia sprints to save toddler. Then sports networks. Flawless form, who is she? Then a tweet, just a still image of Clara mid-stride, hair swept back by speed, with the words, "This woman runs like her life remembers." That tweet hit 80K retweets overnight. People started digging. Someone found her name. Someone else found a 1972 roster of Olympic qualifiers. Another posted a blurred article from an old microfilm archive. Young track star exits games amid rumors. And then, someone, an archivist at the Olympic Heritage Foundation, found the tapes. Footage of Clara Jennings, age 22, in training. No music. No edits. Just pure sprint. Controlled fury. Legs like pistons, shoulders like poetry. The comments came in tidal waves. Why wasn't she in the final? I'd watch her run over any gold medalist today. She looks like she was built to outrun heartbreak. TikTok turned her into a legend. Clara still runs trended for 4 straight days. Users reenacted her run, shared stories of their own mothers, posted side-by-side clips. Clara at 78 diving for a stroller, Clara at 22 exploding off a starting block. One video overlaid her 1972 footage with audio from the modern clip, Clara hitting the pavement, baby in hand. Now that was root of gravity. At Pine Creek, the staff couldn't believe it. Reporters called. Emails flooded in. A morning show requested an interview. But Clara? She sat in her rocking chair on the porch, hands wrapped around a chipped mug of sweet tea, watching birds, watching clouds, watching nothing. She didn't know what to do with attention. She hadn't needed it for decades. That night her son called. "Elijah," she answered softly. He was breathless. "Mama, you're everywhere." "I know," she said. "Ain't that something?" He paused. "You okay?" She looked down at her hands. Still steady. Still hers. "I think I'm fine," she said. "But I feel heavy, like a wind's coming back, around." Then the email came. Subject, a long overdue invitation from Kira Lang, Olympic Heritage Committee. It read, "Miss Jennings, we've seen the footage, all of it. You may not know, but your 1972 training tapes were archived, lost in paperwork and silence. We found them, and we found you. We're organizing a special segment during this year's legacy ceremony in Atlanta. Women the world forgot. Would you consider joining us? Not just to be honored, but to be seen, truly seen." Clara stared at the screen for a long time. She didn't respond right away. She closed the laptop, walked out to her tiny garden, let her fingers brush the lavender, let her mind drift backward. Munich, The cold hotel hallway, the silence after the news, the empty locker where her uniform once hung, and then, to her feet, still strong, still hers, she whispered to the air, "If they want to see me, they'll have to catch up." She almost said no, not out of bitterness, not fear, but because the spotlight had never been kind to her. The last time the world had watched Clara Jennings, it turned its back halfway through. Now they wanted her back on a stage, on a track, in front of thousands. "I'm too old for this," she muttered, stirring her oatmeal the next morning. A Pine Creek nurse raised an eyebrow. "Too old to eat oatmeal?" Clara chuckled. "Too old to be anything but background noise." But that wasn't true, and she knew it. The Olympic Heritage Committee followed up, this time with something else. A scanned letter, yellowed, dated 1973, handwritten. "Clara, I fought to keep you on the team. I failed. I still see your stride in my sleep. You were never a distraction. You were our best chance. I'm sorry. Coach Barrett." She read it 5 times, then again out loud. Her voice cracked on "our best chance." She hadn't heard that phrase in decades. Not since someone shouted it from the bleachers in Georgia as she left every girl 3 steps behind. That voice had faded, but now, like an old song hummed from the other side of a door, it returned. Elijah called again that night. He didn't ask if she'd made a decision. He just said, "You've always run for others, Mama. Maybe it's time to run for you." She didn't reply. She didn't have to. He knew the sound of her breath when she was building something inside. 2 days later, Clara opened her closet. There it was, the old box, beneath quilts, letters, forgotten medals from state fairs and church meets. She opened it, unfolded a uniform faded to a warm gray, pressed her face into the fabric. It still smelled like effort, like old sun, like try. She held it close, not like a relic, like armor. In Atlanta, the committee arranged everything: transportation, hotel, medical clearance. They even offered a trainer, a private track, a rehearsal. Clara declined them all. "I'll walk the track when it matters." The staff tried to convince her to use a golf cart for the opening ceremony. She stared at them. "I've waited 56 years. I'll take the steps." The night before the event, she stood in her hotel room barefoot on the cold tile. She walked to the mirror, not to check her reflection, to face it. "You're not here to win," she whispered. "You're here to finish." And then she smiled. Not the polite one she wore for bingo nights and small talk, a different one. The smile of someone who just remembered what she was made for. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta had never known stillness like this. 45,000 people, 1 billion more watching. But when Clara Jennings stepped onto the track, the noise collapsed into reverence. She didn't wear sequins. No custom shoes. No stylist. No manager trailing behind. Just a soft gold tracksuit with her last name stitched across the back. And a single pin on her collar, the one she'd kept from 1972. Lane 4 was waiting. The announcer's voice was solemn, unsure. How to frame her. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Clara Jennings, age 78, Olympic qualifier 1972. Returning to finish the race the world never let her start." She walked to the blocks. No fanfare. Just the soft hush of people holding breath like it might break her. But Clara didn't look fragile. She looked ready. She placed her feet, slowly, deliberately, and then something extraordinary. She crouched, low, arms forward, fingers kissing the track like an old friend. A camera zoomed in on her hands, aged, veined, but firm, and then it panned up across her back, her neck. Her eyes closed. She wasn't posing, she was remembering. The gun didn't fire. Instead, a soft bell rang. It echoed across the stadium like a call to church, and Clara ran. Not fast, not for glory, but with form, precision, love, each step a sentence. "I'm still here. I never quit. You don't get to define me." The crowd didn't cheer at first. They watched. Some cried, some whispered. Phones lifted, but no one shouted. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was sacred. Halfway down the track, a small figure stepped from the sideline. A girl, maybe 9, in pink sneakers and a t-shirt that read, "Clara still runs." The camera cut to Clara, then back to the girl. A beat. Then Clara, without slowing, held out her hand. The girl ran to her. They finished together. The roar rose, not like a wave, but like a sunrise, warm, relentless. Thousands stood. Reporters forgot their notes. Even security guards wiped their eyes. At the finish line, Clara slowed, stopped, placed one palm over her heart, then looked up. And for the first time since 1972, she smiled like the race belonged to her. Backstage, reporter tried to speak, failed, then whispered, "You didn't just run, you rewrote something." Clara blinked. "I didn't run to rewrite." "Then why?" She glanced down the tunnel, where the little girl waited, jumping in place, grinning, like the sky had opened. Clara's answer came quiet. "I ran to return what was stolen. Not from me, from every girl who thinks she's too late." By morning, clips of the run flooded every platform, not edited, not dramatized, just raw footage of a woman finishing what time tried to erase. People posted stories about mothers, mentors, their own buried dreams. Runners around the world held silent one-lap tributes, and on the front page of the New York Times, one photo, Clara mid-stride, holding the girl's hand. The headline read, "She didn't win. She didn't have to." And still, Clara asked for no reward, no medal, no appearance fee, only one thing: to keep the tracksuit. When asked why, she replied, "It fits now, not just my body, my story." The letters started arriving 2 days after the run. At first, just a handful, folded in old envelopes with neat cursive and trembling signatures. Some mailed to Pine Creek Retirement Village, others forwarded from the Olympic Committee. Then came boxes, stacks, hundreds. By the end of the month, Clara had received over $3,000. One was from a woman in Nebraska. "I gave up piano after my teacher laughed at my hands. But last night I sat at the bench again. You gave me back my sound." Another from a man in Germany. "I watched my grandmother bury every part of herself to raise us. I think somehow you ran for her too." And one, just a single sentence, typed on a postcard. "I thought it was too late. Then I saw you." Clara read them every morning, one by one, like scripture. She placed them in shoeboxes labeled by themes: regret, reignition, reclaiming. She didn't respond to all of them, but she carried each one like a pebble in her shoe, small, persistent, grounding her to something larger than pain. Then came the letter she didn't expect. No return address, just her name in slanted cursive that felt oddly familiar. Inside was a photo, 3 women on a podium, Clara's teammates from 1972, one spot empty. On the back, the message, "You were the 4th. The one who outran silence. We never forgot. We were just waiting for you to finish." Clara's hand went to her mouth, not in shock, in recognition. Later that week, the medal arrived, not a replacement. The original bronze embossed with the Olympic rings, her name etched beneath the date. Coach Barrett's signature was on the letter, typed, simple. We kept it. Hoping one day you'd run again, and you did, faster than history. She didn't cry immediately. She held the medal in her palm, thumb tracing its edge, as if feeling the years pressed into the metal. Then she wept. Not loudly, not from sorrow, from release. Because for 56 years, she'd carried a finish line no one else saw, and now finally she'd crossed it. In the quiet that followed, Clara placed the medal not on a shelf, but in the center of her dining table, surrounded it with letters, a mosaic of voices, proof that some victories echo longer than stadiums remember. Clara never called herself a coach, but every Saturday morning, rain or shine, She showed up at the track behind Oak Ridge High School with a stopwatch around her neck and a smile tucked beneath her cap. She never advertised it. She just started showing up. First came one kid, Sammy, age 8, whose parents said he couldn't sit still but could never stay motivated. Then came Lena, 13, quiet, long legs, quick eyes. Said she didn't like her body until Clara showed her what it could do. Then 5 more. 10. Eventually 20 kids lined the field on Saturday mornings, waiting for Clara to say her 3-word phrase, "Run like memory." It wasn't about time. It wasn't about speed. It was about remembering something they'd forgotten, or hadn't been told yet, that their bodies were built to move. That effort was sacred. That silence had rhythm too. Clara didn't charge a fee. She just asked one thing of every runner: "Tell me why you're here." Some said, "I want to be faster." Others said, "I just don't want to feel small." But the answer that made Clara pause was from a girl no taller than her waist. "I want to run like my grandma used to." Before her legs stopped, Clara knelt, took her hand. "Honey," she said, "your legs can remember for her." They ran. They learned cadence, form, breath. But more than that, they learned stillness. At the end of every session, Clara made them walk a lap in silence. No talking. No earbuds. Just the sound of their own feet. Some rolled their eyes, but others, especially the shy ones, grew to love it. They said it felt like hearing their heart from the outside. Clara never said so, but that's what she wanted. Not to build champions, to build listeners, of breath, of space, of their own worth. At the year's end, the kids surprised her. A homemade trophy. Paper mache glitter. A small golden shoe glued to the top. They called it the heart that ran first. Clara laughed until she cried. Then she stood in the middle of the field, raised the trophy and said, "This doesn't belong to me. It belongs to anyone who ever thought the race was over, and ran anyway." It was early. Mist still hung low over Oak Ridge. Clara walked alone down the familiar dirt path behind Pine Creek, the grass bending under her feet like it recognized her weight. She wore the same soft gold tracksuit. Not for show, for memory. She wasn't heading anywhere, just walking, the way some people pray. She stopped at the little loop behind the orchard, the one no one used, took off her shoes. And then, without warning, without preparation, she ran. Not fast. Not far. Just enough to feel it. Enough to feel the wind push back like it missed her. Enough for the earth to remember her rhythm. Enough for her own bones to whisper, "Still here." When she returned to her porch, breath light but satisfied, she found a letter on the table. From the girl who had crossed the finish line with her in Atlanta. The handwriting was shaky, childish. Inside, just a single sentence. "I run now. Because of you, I think I always will." Clara placed the letter next to the medal. Then next to that, the shoebox full of postcards. Then she sat, rocked slowly. Not because she was tired, because she was full. At dusk, Elijah arrived. He didn't knock, just sat beside her. They didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "You look taller." Clara smiled. "I laid something down." He nodded. "Can I ask what?" She turned, eyes soft, voice steady. The silence. The next morning, she didn't lace up, didn't run. She didn't need to, because the world was still running with her name in its stride. Every time a girl stepped onto a track, every time someone old decided to try, every time someone believed it wasn't too late. Clara was there, not in bronze, not in books, but in the wind. Because some races don't end at the line, they echo. And some runners don't disappear, they become a direction. If this story touched you, share it. Someone out there is still waiting to remember they can run. And if you'd like more quiet stories that speak loudly, subscribe.